So, if you're a part of the whole self-improvement space, you've most likely heard of the term monk mode before. What this is, for anyone who doesn't know, is a phase you go through. It's not a phase, Mum, it's who I am. And during this phase, you essentially lock in on a specific task/set of tasks. Depending on where you get your info relating to monk mode from, usually this involves not socializing for a period of 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer, to get something specific done. Whilst I do think people need some periods of locking in during their life to get something specific done, sometimes you need balance in life. In one of my more popular videos, I talk about the grind involved in my life, and some comments were saying how they prefer to enjoy themselves a bit more in their younger years. Totally fine. We're all different. If we were all the same, life would be pretty boring. My reasons were explained in that video, but the basic gist of it is I grind earlier in life to take advantage of cheaper asset prices. Buying a house, for example, 30 years ago was way easier than it is today. And it's also easier today to buy a house than it will be in 10 years from now. The more money I get now, the easier my 30s and beyond will be. There's other stuff involved in my grind other than just working a lot, but that's the gist of it. But I do get having a more relaxed 20s. You're only young once after all. You spend a lot more time in life as an older person than being young. But anyway, point of that tangent was to mention that a lot of people have a more balanced/relaxed approach on life. So this monk mode strategy of zoning in on a task/a few tasks is not ideal for them. If you're a more social person, could you go 6 months without a social event? Maybe, but that's a rough 6 months. I'll circle back to this point later in the video too. So what do people usually accomplish with monk mode? Well, depends on who you ask, but usually it's stuff like rapidly growing a business. And by that, they mean they try to get some YouTube channel or dropshipping store up and running. They also often gym, since you can't have a self-improvement related video without having some sort of gym stuff. And who knows what else. But usually, outcomes relating to monk mode involve more money and becoming more fit. Fair enough. Everyone wants more money, and most people want to be more fit. Except the social justice warriors. They're beautiful the way they are, am I right? Now, do I use monk mode myself? To an extent. My regular viewers/listeners know this already, but about 6 weeks before my exam for my post-tertiary qualification, I don't do anything for YouTube at all. I go on hiatus. I lock in. I go monk mode. I spend all my spare time studying for my exam. I don't socialize either. My friends know I don't hang out whenever my exam period is near. I still gym, but only up to 2 to 3 weeks out from the exam. It depends on how I feel. After that, the only things I do are work and study. Maybe meal prep, but usually I ensure that I have enough food to carry me through the hiatus. Not that cooking takes up that much time, but it gets annoying having to make sure your food doesn't burn whilst you are trying to study. I'll take some days off both jobs in the last 2 weeks before the exam too, for some extra preparation time, and once the exam is finally done, I slowly get back to normal. I go back to my 7-day work week as usual. I go back to the gym. I slowly reintroduce the volume I was doing prior. I start back on some YouTube videos. I start listening to stock market info again. And I have any hangouts that are overdue after my exam. So this is monk mode, I suppose. I am locking in on a task, that being passing my exam, but I still work/gym a bit until it gets really close to crunch time. Now let's talk about why I don't think monk mode is the best strategy to get stuff done and lock in. The main objective of monk mode is ignore a lot of other stuff in your life, focus on one task for a period of time, and then get that done. I have a few queries with this, and I'll go over them now. First query with monk mode, you lock in on a task for a set period of time. My question is, how much progress can you really make in that specific period of time? I used the example of my exam periods before, and it's worked well. 5 out of 6 exams done. I just got the time stone recently, and now I'm after the mind stone. 1 to go.
One to go.
But most people doing this aren't really after passing an exam relating to postgraduate study. Most people do it to get a business going, to get super fit. How long do you plan on being in monk mode to achieve this? Generally, a profitable business takes longer than 6 months to get going, and more than likely it takes you more than 6 months to get super fit. Unless you have muscle and are just fat, you can defs get pretty fit in 6 months in that case, but if you're a twink, like I was, it takes longer than 6 months to become aesthetic. I can tell you that. Okay, so if that's the case, is your goal to stay in perpetual monk mode until you have a profitable business and are aesthetic? Are you prepared to go without social events until that goal is achieved? You could be missing out on a lot of memories, especially considering most of this monk mode stuff is targeted towards the younger dudes. The same younger dudes who'd prefer to enjoy their lives more after seeing my Hard Work in Your 20s video. So this is why this is a query for me with monk mode. Most goals people intend on achieving take longer than the average monk mode time, and if you plan on going monk mode until your goal is achieved, you could be on this for a long, long time. Next query with monk mode. Why does your goal require you to lock yourself away? Would one night out every fortnight really kill your progress? Hell, would one night per week really damage your progress? Once again, since this is geared towards younger dudes, I imagine you're not working 60+ hour weeks, 7 days a week with more than 10 hours of commute time each week, like me. My nights when I'm not at the gym are valuable since it's my only real study or brand work time. Why can't I do that another time? Because I'm at work the other times. I imagine you're not. Even so, I do hang out with friends from time to time. Yes, it does hinder time spent on studying or my YouTube channel growth, since the less time I spend on it, the longer it takes to get a video out. And obviously, if I'm hanging out with friends, I can't be working on a video. But if I worked even 30 hours a week instead of 60, that spare 30 hours is more than enough time to keep my brand going whilst still hanging out a lot. I imagine this is the case with most other people. You have plenty of spare time as is, so you don't need to be as strict with your routine to get extra work done like me. I'm sure the difference between 30 hours spent on that task versus 33 hours isn't that large. It can matter for stuff like exams. As I mentioned in my passing financial reporting video, an extra 3 hours could have secured some extra marks in my recent exam. But it doesn't matter. A pass is a pass. But as I said before, in most cases, this monk mode stuff is what people use on their business as opposed to exams. Since the less time I spend on it, the longer it takes to get a video out. And obviously, if I'm hanging out with friends, I can't be working on a video. But if I worked even 30 hours a week instead of 60, that spare 30 hours is more than enough time to keep my brand going whilst still hanging out a lot. I imagine this is the case with most other people. You have plenty of spare time as is, so you don't need to be as strict with your routine to get extra work done like me. I'm sure the difference between 30 hours spent on that task versus 33 hours isn't that large. It can matter for stuff like exams. As I mentioned in my passing financial reporting video, an extra 3 hours could have secured some extra marks in my recent exam. But it doesn't matter. A pass is a pass. But as I said before, in most cases, this monk mode stuff is what people use on their business as opposed to exams. Last query is, do you only lock in for a set period of time? What happens after monk mode is done? Do you just go back to doing nothing? Do you only get tasks done if you go monk mode? Maybe this is a moot point. Maybe monk mode refers to going the extra mile. Perhaps most people who adopt this strategy do some productive stuff each week. They just adopt monk mode when they want to take it to the next level. But again, usually these guys aren't locking themselves away to focus on an exam. They're growing their business or whatever. There's always work to be done on a business. Will you perpetually lock yourself away? If I did this, monk mode, right now to grow my brand, I'd be locked away for ages. I have a heap of video ideas I want to get done. But instead of ditching gym, taking days off work, ditching social activities, etc., I just use my strategy instead. And I work on this brand when my current time slot / my current environment allows for it. Okay, so I have my issues with monk mode. So what's the alternative? In my YouTube channel monetized video, I said at one point, if you're going to trash something, at least provide an alternative. Well, what's the alternative? The alternative I use is chameleon mode. What is blood yapping about here? Well, it's something I believe I came up with, and it involves changing yourself to fit your environment. And this is quite fluid. You're able to change colors rather quickly, but more on that later. A quick Google search shows that this term has been used before, but I don't think it's been used in the context I am using it in. So what I mean by changing colors, changing to adapt to your environment, is instead of locking in on one task for months on end, you can lock in, but only for hours on end, rather than months. Example, during the day, I am a combination of blue and purple. At the start of the day when I'm getting ready for work and driving to work, I'm purple. I'm listening to stock market information for the investor stat. My accounting career, my gym, my YouTube brand, none of that is of focus whilst I am listening to this info. All I'm focused on / care about at this time is the investor stat. Once I am at work, I'm blue, focused on my career, racking up that XP for the career stat. Although I do multitask and listen to stock market stuff, which involves turning purple, and I stick to my diet each day, which involves turning yellow. The primary focus is on my accounting career. In between the hours of 8:30 to 4:30 each weekday, I'm not worried about the upcoming gym session later. I'm not worried about what the stocks / indices / commodities / foreign exchange, etc. I currently have open positions on will do in the pre-market later that night. I'm not worried about the growth of my brand. I'm only focused on my career. Gaining XP, making sure the accounts are correct, that's what I need to lock in on. Once 4:30 hits, color change time. If I'm driving home, I go back to purple. I suss other stock market stuff that was uploaded later in the day, since I don't listen to stock market stuff the entire day. Maybe the first hour or so at work, since due to the daylight saving times with earlier uploads in Australia time at the moment, I can get all the vids listened to before I even get to work. If I have a gym night, I listen to gym content. Helps get me in the mood, plus I just like listening to other gym rats. It's oddly motivating hearing other gym dudes talk about gym, even though I don't need the motivation since the gym is just a habit to me these days. Point is, if there's gym later, I turn yellow for the aesthetic stat. When I'm in the gym, I'm not worried about my career, my CPA studies, my YouTube channel, my investments, my house, nothing. I'm only focused on the workout. I am locked in on the task at hand. If I went home instead of going to the gym, depending on what I have to do, I'm either blue again as I focus on my CPA studies, or I'm red as I'm focused on creating new content. Before bed, I'm orange as I listen / watch to content not related to the grind at all. This is where I watch video game related stuff, World War II documentaries, Sonic Boom, stuff like that. When I get up the next day, chameleon mode starts all over again. Well, it never ended to begin with. You're always a different color, but your color depends on the task at hand. On weekends at my wagey job, I'm green for the money. Yeah, I also obviously get paid at my accounting job, so I guess you could say I'm half blue, half green, but my wagey job has no correlation to my career, so I'm just green during that time. On my usual Saturday night meal prep, I'm half yellow as I cook diet related to my food. Aesthetic stat, whilst listening to stock market stuff, half purple for the investor stat. When it comes time to really lock in on something, like gunning for YouTube monetization, I will cut gym sessions short to get home so I can work on more content for my channel. This is what I was doing some nights in May when I noticed I was close to ad monetization, so I was gunning for that, since you only become monetized once. Like, providing you don't constantly violate YouTube guidelines then reapply. Like, under normal circumstances, you can only get monetized once. This isn't something I need to reapply for each month/each year, so I had to strike while the iron was hot, had to take advantage of the opportunity. So I turned red more often than I usually would. I spent less time being yellow. I would normally never ditch gym early to get more content out. I've done it in the past before, but usually I never do this since there's always something extra I can make on YouTube. But with gym, I hit diminished returns after a certain point, so I'll basically try and hit that threshold before working on more content. But anyway, opportunities like that are fine to change colors/stay a certain color for a longer period of time, in my opinion. Another example is when I have exams. I will slowly spend less time sussing investments and more time listening to lectures. I'll also stop turning red. Instead, I'll use that time as a blue chameleon. I'll be studying for my career stat as opposed to being red making content for my brand. I also taper off gym sessions. Less time spent being yellow, more time spent being blue. So in those two cases, gunning for ad monetization and gunning for a passing exam result, those are pseudo monk mode times, I suppose. But the ad monetization grind was only like 3 weeks. I cut a few gym sessions off early and was really efficient with my nights off getting that stuff done. But I still had one social event in that time, and I still did everything else I usually do in my life, such as the 2-job grind. So it was more so a reshuffling of priorities. Recently, I also had a social event on a Friday night and a social event on the following Monday night. I turned orange, the mental health stat for those nights. On the Friday, I had dinner with some friends from high school. Didn't get enough protein in since I didn't have my usual standard eggs for dinner. Instead, I had some sushi, rice, and cake after. Some protein was had, sure, but not my usual 30 grams. Also, I got 2 bits of salmon sushi that night. Cost me like $4.20, Blazik in it. And I legit ate each bit of sushi in a single bite each. $4.20 for 2 bites? My most expensive meal in my daily diet costs slightly more than that. And there's a lot more than 2 bites in that meal, I can tell you that. Not to mention my dinner was essentially just a big bowl of rice. I have that every night. That cost me like $13. My daily diet costs roughly that much. We also found some dessert bar afterwards. I got a slice of cheesecake, $10.50 later. Again, my daily diet cost me almost this much. I drained some money in exchange for messing up my diet. But guess what? It was totally worth it. Spent some money and didn't hit my macros. So Friday night I spent no time being green or yellow, but I was orange instead. And I had a great time. I don't run through my cash balance updates and I'm like, well, if I hadn't spent that $25 plus on random food that night, I'd have a little extra here. No, I don't think that way. No need to monk mode for your money or aesthetic stat. Just chameleon mode it. If you were looking at getting your money up, yeah, nights like this don't help, but they don't totally derail your progress. Same with gym. Yeah, a night of barely any protein and lots of carbs and fats doesn't help, but it doesn't totally negate all the extra work you've done this week. Goes back to what I said earlier. Are you planning on going monk mode until you're considered conventionally aesthetic? Why not just enjoy yourself a little through the journey? Trust the process. It's like the cliche saying, it's about the journey, not the destination. Imagine going without seeing your friends for a year to get your physique up. I doubt even one hangout a fortnight would put a huge dent in your physique. Maybe it can hinder it if you are binge drinking a lot, but in that case, just don't do that. Simple fix. As for Monday, I went to see Despicable Me 4. Good movie, had Macca's for dinner, had popcorn in the cinema. Again, macros were not hit, money was spent, but hey, I had a good time. So you can see from this example that you can still make great progress without locking yourself away from society for months on end. I spent money, I had junk, I didn't get any study/brand work done those 2 nights, but I'm still progressing just fine in my life. With stuff like my exam, yeah, I don't hang out, but that's a relatively quick burst of clutch study I have to do. My hiatus is about 6 weeks, not 6 months, and I wouldn't need to go on hiatus if I didn't work 7 days a week, because I'd have a spare 2 days a week to study throughout the whole semester. Based on what I see online from the monk mode people, none of them are working 7 days a week at conventional careers/jobs. You definitely have the time to get enough study done without this. But again, this study grind is very short term compared to what most monk mode advocates recommend. I suppose you could say this is just monk mode with more steps, but my ideology is that you don't need to lock yourself away for months on end to get stuff done. You can get stuff done whilst still being sociable. You just change your colors to fit the environment. If you really want to take whatever goal you have to the next level, spending a couple hours with your friends is not going to reverse all of that progress. If you're feeling burnt out and want to relax with some video games, a few hours is not going to totally ruin your progress. I don't play video games myself, but I know a lot of self-improvement hustle bros like shitting on it. If that's what you enjoy and you play video games only once your other tasks are taken care of, that's fine. Luka Doncic plays Overwatch, whatever that is. It's a video game as far as I know. And he just played in the NBA Finals and some games related to the Olympics. Yeah, he has genetic advantages most of us don't have, like being almost 7 feet tall. But the point stands, he's a high achiever, and yet he doesn't hustle grind 24/7. So he's achieved that whilst still playing video games and enjoying himself. Meanwhile, you have try-hard hustle bros shitting on video games who've never achieved anything noteworthy in their life other than some semi-large online following. Gee, maybe Luka would have his first ring and he would still be playing in the Olympics if he didn't play so many video games, hey? So this video talked about a better strategy, in my opinion, than monk mode. It has a similar ideology about locking in, but the lock-in periods are much shorter and it allows for greater flexibility in your schedule. No need to feel bad about going to that one gathering or having that one night off for some video games. It's obviously not going to help, but it's most certainly not going to totally derail your progress. Have you done monk mode yourself before? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.